show my face. Jeez. Wow.
It's streaming live now.
It's streaming live now. Yes. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Jenny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. I'm here to share the speaker portion of our Connections Over Coffee gathering of the On Purpose Woman Global Community. Carol Burbank is speaking on building writing muscles, balancing craft and play. Carol is an On Purpose woman, a writer, educator, and writing mentor dedicated to supporting creatives with authentic, energizing strategies to create successful books and find their unique voices. She founded the Storyweaving Retreat Center in Fort Washington, Maryland in 2019 and is a local On Purpose Woman Global Community host. Carol, thanks for being with us.
Oh, thanks. Thanks a lot, Jenny.
So
well, I'm really glad to be here. Welcome all the people who are on Facebook Live, or if you're seeing this as a recording, I'm glad you're here too. As Jenny said, story weaving is a service for creatives, and I offer everything from soup to nuts, basically helping people develop projects and develop their voices, all the way to editing and publishing services, which include finding beta readers, affordable strangers, or helping you publish, or helping you send out your work to agents, or helping find alternatives to books. And as a writing coach, what I've realized is that a lot of us are purposive, for the most part confident, always learning new things, increasingly excited about our writing. And at the same time, a lot of my clients say, I don't know, Carol, I've been working really hard. I'm wondering if I should get more training, like an MFA, or should I go to a writing school, or get a PhD, or get a master's degree. And I often have a whimsical reaction to that. And my whimsical reaction is to say, what makes you think that you can't learn MFA techniques, that you can't actually do that serious process of writing and rewriting as a writer in your own independent space? And that's the question. It's like the second layer. Once we get the confidence to actually write, once we find a writing group, once we find a writing mentor, once we find our own voice, once we actually get passionate about it, then we say, maybe I should get a degree. Well, that's a lot of time and money, a lot of money and a lot of time. And so I've started a whole series of workshops and all sorts of exercises and strategies that I'm sharing, which basically I call mini MFA. You don't have to get an MFA or a degree in business writing or whatever, or social media, or whatever it is that you're thinking you need. You can actually learn strategies on your own. And the trick is that you have to be willing to take the risk and play to develop your craft, and take your writing seriously enough to take a leap forward. And I think everyone in this room knows that, because in the conversation that we've been having in today's On Purpose Woman group, we've been talking about the books we've published and the strategies that we use to make sure that our thoughts get captured, and how do we make sure to edit, and how do we create teams. But there are exercises that I want to share today that are MFA style exercises that kind of break the ice on your thinking. And my rationale with sharing these exercises is this: it's really simple. Yes, your writing should be clear. But wouldn't it be great if your writing expressed your authentic voice with the craft and the growing craft of you as a writer, not just you as a thinker or a content developer? And writing craft means balancing craft with play, and being willing to say, I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to learn to edit differently. I'm going to take a different way of asking questions. I'm going to take my writing seriously enough to play with it. And this is the thing about craft. The more you play, the more craft you develop, the more your strengths shine, and the more your challenges have a workaround, if not a way to turn them into strengths. Some of these things I learned in my experiences with my MFA program at Boston University. Some of them I've just developed over the years for my own writing craft. So I want to share them with you. So my first strategy, my first step to MFA mastery without actually having to get your MFA at a university, is to take a leap of faith and try what I call one-sentence do-overs. Have you ever written an article or a chapter or a poem or whatever you happen to write, or a letter, where suddenly you go, oh, this whole thing, this is the messiest first draft I've ever written, and it's just, I don't even know what I'm saying. A one-sentence do-over can really help you if you're brave enough to do it. And this takes a lot of courage. Take the best sentence from that first draft. Take the best line from that first poem. Whatever it is, take one line or one sentence, throw away everything else, remembering that you can go back and look at it and retrieve anything because computers, and take that one sentence and start with the blank page and only work with that sentence. Don't rewrite the whole thing that isn't working. Take the best sentence and write from that point. Write new. This is a huge editing and self-discovery exercise because we all want to hold on, like we want to grip on to the thing that we're like, ooh, I got a first draft. Now I'm just going to fix it. But let go of that. You have to trust the things that are important are going to come back in. And you take the one sentence that, this captures everything. And you start with that sentence. And then I promise you, your second draft will have all the richness of your first draft and much more energy. By the way, you can also do this with other people's writing. Let's say you love a poet like May Sarton, or a fiction writer or a nonfiction writer, or you find a blog where someone wrote a brilliant sentence. Put that sentence in quotes at the top, especially if you plan to publish. Make sure you mark where it was cited from, and then write from that sentence. Doesn't have to be your sentence. Maybe you're stuck. Oh, how do I start this article? How do I start this poem? Oh, I'm going to start with Walt Whitman's quote, "I contain multitudes." I'm going to start with Brene Brown's quote about shame that always touches me deep. And then write from there. So that one sentence prompt liberates you from having to redo something that isn't working, so you can discover something new in your writing. The second trick, the second thing is I did learn this from my MFA program. And it is, I call it earning and examining your metaphors. Earning and examining your metaphors. We all use metaphors. We all use metaphors. A metaphor is a comparison that doesn't use like or as. So that deadline is a train coming straight for my house. That's a metaphor. That captures the feeling of, looming deadline. It's going to hit the house. Everything's going to explode. So it's not a great metaphor, but that's an example of a metaphor. We all use them consciously and unconsciously. Now, what I notice about our metaphors are that sometimes they turn into cliches. So here's an example of someone in a group that I was in. She wrote a poem about throwing her partner's ashes into the ocean. And she wrote in it, "The waves kiss the shore." Now, because of the context, you say that's a lovely metaphor. But if she was just saying, "Oh, I love the ocean, the waves kiss the shore," then that's just a cliche. So in order to avoid writing in cliches, in order to revise so that you up your metaphor game, ask these questions. Have I earned this metaphor? Does this metaphor capture the idea, feeling, thought that I want? And if the answer is, well, it's pretty good, do better. Find the right metaphor or shift that metaphor. Because a metaphor enters our hearts as readers as a literal truth. So if you don't like a train hitting Carol's house, and that's actually way too vivid for a deadline, I would never write that because that's not how a deadline feels to me. I say, well, what does a deadline feel like to me? And then when I get the truest answer, I turn that into a metaphor. Does it match what I want? The second question is, if it's a good metaphor, can I use this metaphor to flow through my entire article, chapter, book, poem? Can I expand this metaphor to deepen it? The answer is usually yes. And have I repeated this metaphor in the poem, chapter, book without needing to? So there's two sides of that, right? If you use a metaphor once, ooh, should I expand this metaphor that I'm really thinking works? Second question is, have I repeated it too much? Am I going to bore the reader? Do I need to find other metaphors? Because we have to earn our metaphors. Metaphors are the way into the heart. And when I say earn it, we earn it by writing well. We earn it by choosing the metaphor consciously, not just saying, I have a metaphor. Oh, I love this metaphor. This metaphor is so great. Oh, a train. You know, it's the example I gave was not an interesting metaphor, but it's a metaphor that is my starting place. So dive into the metaphor, find the truth in it, and find out how it can be used to develop or how you can pull it back so that it has more power in your work. This is an example of learning to read and think about your writing from a point of view of craft while letting yourself play with metaphors. Because if you don't play with metaphors, you're actually just going to be writing like scientific, you know, when you're putting together an IKEA shelf, you have a little thing saying, step 1, take the things out of the boxes. You know, that you don't want to write like that. Even if you're writing something that's very business-like, even when I'm writing an academic research article, I select metaphors that are appropriate to expanding an idea, and I frame them in ways that I earn them. This is really important, especially for poets, but for any of us. So those are the questions. Is it cliched? Is it the right metaphor? Am I using it in the right way? That's the second one. Now, the third one, I've only recently learned. I went to Omega Institute and I studied with Elizabeth Bradfield, who's a poet, photographer, fiction, nonfiction writer, naturalist. And what I learned there is what I'm starting to apply in my workshops, which is that we need to trust that we can hybridize what we do. We can expand our definition of who we are as writers into a more creative scope. So if you only write poetry in one book and fiction in another book, try blending them. Try seeing what you can discover by the mix. If in your LinkedIn posts, you're only writing 3 steps to mastery, like I'm doing in this talk, then you're not using LinkedIn very well. You need to vary your format. You need to say, okay, I know this is a formula that makes people click, but how can I actually expand it so that I'm actually expressing my voice more actively? What if you're a photographer? What if you have a piece of art? What if you find a piece of art in Creative Commons that you can actually use? What if you find a quote or link to somebody and then meditate on what they say? Expand and hybridize your production. And this is really important if you want to publish, because more and more and more now, just a one modality is not getting the attention it used to get. Hybrid modalities are becoming the way. So memoir and fiction often blending together, or poetry and prose, or poetry and photography, or photography and essays. So hybridize your work. And the thing about hybridizing your work that is really important is that it isn't just for publication, although I guarantee you, if you do hybridize it, you will have a greater scope and reach. It's also that if you hybridize your work, even if some parts of it are not publishable quotes, you'll still get inspired. So here's an example from my creative process. I create altered books. That means that I take an existing book and I turn it into a piece of art by obscuring pages, by taking certain words and riffing on them, by creating collage on the page, by adding my own words to the page, by painting it, gessoing it. It's a craft approach to altering books. And I alter books that are related to my writing projects. And what I've discovered is that when I'm working on an altered book, suddenly I learn something I needed to know, so that when I turn back to the writing, I can say, oh, I need to write a poem about power here. Or, oh, this has to be an essay. This has to be an essay, or this has to be a play. Or, wow, I didn't even realize that this was a theme that I wanted to do. And when I went to this workshop with Elizabeth Bradfield at Omega, not only did I learn that there are publication opportunities for my altered book images and my poems, but I also learned that I was thinking of myself, I'm a writer. So all the other things I did creatively were just sort of fun things I did. What if you brought that spirit of play and craft into your writing projects as owning your power? Like, we're always talking about being on purpose. If your purpose is to get your content out there, to move out there, to help people understand angels better, to draw people into your ideas, to get clients, to enliven people's imaginations with your poetry, whatever your purpose is, if you expand your idea of who you are as a creative, your purpose will expand as well to more arenas. And your craft will improve as a writer, because you're going to know more about yourself, you're going to know more about your topics, and you're going to know more about how to elevate your writing from competent and functional, and probably better than that, to a draft that just reaches right into somebody's life and says, hi, I'm here. And that's what we all want. So as part of my mini MFA series, I've decided to have a series of classes starting in October that go all the way through February, one a month, around the themes of specific strategies to improve your writing and get creative with play as well as craft. And I'll put this in the chat room, or people can go to storyweaving.com and look at my blog, and there's a blog about these series. And the reason I decided to do this series is that everybody really we all want to up our game. But when we up our game, how do we do it? What are some of the strategies that we can do that can really help us maximize our strength? And many of my clients and many of the writers I meet, we're in a rut. We get in a rut with our writing. We write the same way. We ask the same questions. This series of workshops and these ideas that I've shared with you are designed to just spark your writing, whatever you write, whatever it is, any genre, because all genres use fact, fiction, metaphor, character development, your voice, all genres. And your hybrid genres that you're all already writing require you to have some flexibility and resiliency in your work. So if there's one thing I want to leave you with today, you people who are listening live, you people who are listening recorded, and those of us in the room who will continue the discussion after the live is over, the one thing I want to leave you with is it is possible to become a better writer without expending $50,000 to get an MFA. And the way you do it is to learn something like the one sentence rewrite and practice it over and over and over until it becomes fun, until it becomes part of your repertoire, until you go, this is crap, and then go, oh wait, there's one sentence. And so you have this strategy, you just flip into possibility instead of, oh, I wish I could write this article better. It doesn't matter. You can write it better, but you need to develop the habits of craft that help you play into insight. And that's, as Edith Ann used to say, and that's the truth.
Oh, Carol, oh gosh, I'm so glad this is on video because I just couldn't write down enough. So such great ideas. I would like everybody who's here with us on Zoom to unmute yourselves and let's give Carol some applause and some hooplas and like, woo!
Nice.
Thank you.
That was great. Thank
Carol.
you.
And I want to thank anyone who's watching this live or watching the replay on YouTube. If you'd like to join us for one of our 9 free Zoom gatherings a month or an in-person in Columbia, Maryland, Richmond, Virginia, or Tallahassee, Florida, you can comment below and I'll tell you how to do that. You can also go to my website, opwgc.com, and find out all about our community. That website link is in the text of this video, as is Carol Burbank's website, storyweaving.com. Thanks for watching, everyone.